Okay, thanks, Nisha. Appreciate the kind introduction and also the opportunity to just chat with everybody about this. I'm looking through the names of the people here. I know some, but not everyone. So I want to take a minute to kind of just learn about everybody. So if we could, I'll call out names and then you could just quickly introduce yourself, where you are and what you do, and maybe what you teach. And so we'll start with Mirsini. I'm not sure, Myrsini? Not sure I'm pronouncing the name right. Okay, let's move to Demetrios.
Uh, Hello there. I'm at the University of Houston. I'm also an assistant professor. What I teach statics. I also teach pre-stressed concrete and masonry structures for the time being.
Okay, thank you. Lin Fei.
Hi, John. My name is Ling Fei. So I'm a new assistant professor at Florida International University. So just started half years ago, and first semester I taught the senior course reinforced concrete design, and in the coming semester I'm developing I'm developing a new course here, but basically just construction materials.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks. Mehdi.
Hey, Mehdi Khanzadeh. I'm an associate professor at Temple. So I'm teaching both concrete materials and structural courses here.
Okay, great. I think one of my classmates at Drexel is an administrator at your department, David
Oh.
Wick. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we were classmates at Drexel as undergrad. Shinhyu Kang.
Hello. So my name is Shinyu Kang at Hope College in Michigan. And I just finished my first year at Hope.
Okay.
And I'm teaching concrete materials and material science and mechanical materials, reinforced concrete, some basic engineering courses here.
Okay, great. Yeah. I didn't realize Hope had engineering. Is that a new thing?
No, it has been here, but I'm the first professor with expert for the concrete. So.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks. Roya.
Hi, hi everyone. This is Roya, assistant professor at Louisiana Tech University, and I teach some freshman courses, Introduction to Engineering and reinforced concrete design, and I teach advanced reinforced concrete design for graduate students.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Hello. My name is Stephanie Paul. I'm an associate professor at Texas A&M University. I came a little late, but I think I figured out what I'm doing. I teach undergrad dynamics, structures at both levels, and then a class on machine learning for civil engineers.
Okay, great. Okay, Sivakumar.
Hello. So I, Shiva Ramanathan here, assistant professor of practice at University of Miami. So I teach mechanics of solids, fluid mechanics, introduction to engineering, and a measurements lab. So depending on which semester it is, and I've been teaching for about 2 years now.
Okay, great. Mohammed. Okay, maybe Mohammed cannot hear. And I'm seeing if anyone has come in and I've missed. Has anyone not spoken that I've somehow missed? Okay, Well, it sounds like we've gotten everybody. Well, as you see from my title that I have here it's called Everything You Ever Need to Know About Teaching Well. And I use that title just to kind of capture your imagination and get your attention. Because in reality, of course, that's not possible. I certainly am not in a position to explain good teaching because teaching is a complicated, broad, variable task. And so I think one size fits all, or here's the trick, here's what you need to do, is not reasonable. It's a much more complicated problem than that. And so really, you have to consider on a case-by-case basis about what makes good teaching. Depends on the person, depends on the class and the students. And so I think, I'm not sure, and here are just some things about, things to consider about teaching as we go forward. It's like, good teaching really depends on you. What are your strengths and your personality? What can you pull off? What are you not comfortable pulling off? And then considering that, what do you want to improve about your teaching? And then in terms of this kind of variability, teaching depends on what you're teaching. Is it a lower level undergraduate course, a freshman experience course, an upper level specific high level graduate course? These are different topics and different populations. Is it just a straight lecture course? Does it have labs in it, hands-on, discussion? And what about the scale? Teaching to 25 people is often different and needs different strategies than teaching to 150 people or 300 people. And of course, one should consider, what kind of support do you have? Do you have teaching assistants? How do you utilize them? How do you manage them? They're an important face of the teaching too. So if you don't have control or kind of management and know what's going on with the teaching assistants, can be a problem. So I wanted to kind of get your attention with that really grandiose title, but let me lower the expectations. I don't have all the answers for you. I've taught for a long time. I'm always self-reflecting about my teaching and thinking about that. And I think you already are in a position to help all of us together work together and figure out what makes good teaching. And so I'm going to have a kind of group activity here so that we together are going to come up with what makes good teaching. I'm going to guide it with some best practices that I can share with you, and then kind of my feelings about global things. But first, like to kind of get at this group think and crowdsource the answer here. So first exercise, I'd like you to take a moment and think about your own experience as a student. Now, preferably I'm thinking about at the university level, either undergraduate or graduate. And think about a class or a professor that really stood out to you as a really good class. I really learned a lot. It was an effective class. And then start thinking about what are the reasons that it was good. What did you like about that professor? What did you like about that class? So kind of short ideas. So I'd like you all to kind of think about that. And then when you don't have to identify the course or the professor or anything like that, but when you've kind of thought about that for a little bit, why don't you in the chat type out just short reasons, justifications, bases for what made that professor or that class really good to make it stand out to you that, hey, this was effective, good class. So take a moment to do that and just type in a few things in the chat. so I can see them, and I'll kind of collect them and group them. So I'll just be quiet now and let you do that and see what you have. And in the meantime, I'm gonna get out of presentation mode so that I can type some things down. So please go ahead. So I'm, as you guys are typing, I'll just read some of these out. And some are, so for example, interactive, not just read from the slides. Kept activities varied, well organized, clear communication. Spoke with clarity, multiple activities, new student names. Knowledge level and attention to detail. Clear communication conveys passion. Returned homework assignments and grades on time. Was available during office hours. Teamwork exercises in class. Genuine care and enthusiasm. One here for an undergraduate course, to have a well-defined course syllabus with clear requirements that are followed beginning to end. So these are all great. And they're all valid because they're coming from you and you believe that. So what I'm going to do is kind of just type some ideas here that kind of capture that. And from what I see, I'm just going to type some words here so that we have it together. One seems to be communication, right? So clear communication. Sorry, I'm just going looking back. Another that it seems to be kind of good organization. Good and clear organization. Another one I see here is kind of responsiveness. You know, that's the one I'm referring to in terms of return homework assignments on time, available during office hours. Care and enthusiasm. Here we have clear syllabus, clarity. So to have well-defined course syllabus, clear requirements followed beginning to end. So that means, to me, I will say I'll add it here, and I would call that transparency. Now, clear requirements, students understand what's happening. So one of the started lectures with stories which related to concepts. Okay, so so maybe I will call that connecting material to real world problems or issues. Okay. And here's, I think I capture it all. Is there anything else that you think, a theme that I'm kind of missing here, and anyone can speak up? So here we have communication, kind of responsiveness, care, and enthusiasm. I'm trying to group them by theme. I think one of them was kind of, someone mentioned group activities, right? Getting out of lecture mode. Okay, am I missing anything? People want to, so here on the bottom, I'm connecting more about the type of teaching, including group activities, getting out of just straight lecture mode, connecting material to real world problems. Here, it's more about communicating and organization and transparency. And on the upper right, it says, responsiveness and care, right? And so I like these because, these are your thoughts and they're valid and they're real. That's what it doesn't say here is, oh, you have to use a flipped classroom. All right. I really like that professor who did think, pair, share and flipped classroom and and used all of these latest technologies and latest best practices and latest ideas to engage students. So good teaching doesn't necessarily mean that. It means having your stuff together, being an authority, being clear and organized and transparent, being responsive, caring about the students, also kind of getting out of traditional lecture mode. So, flipped classrooms can do that, think, pair, share, other kinds of group activities, quick quizzes, all that stuff is great. And then connecting, getting out of the textbook and saying, hey, this is why it's important. So kind of going beyond the lecture. So all of these things are great. And I want you to kind of remember those. And the next activity is kind of the converse, is think about a class or a professor that was not a good experience for you. You didn't think it was effective, you didn't learn, you didn't like it, you didn't like the way things happened. And again, type in what were the reasons that it wasn't good. And again, I'll just be quiet for a while and let you type in your notes. Okay, one is what I see here is reading off the slides, just not engaging, not going beyond lecture. That's what I'll call it. And of course, if you type that and you think I didn't capture the idea right, overwhelming students with lots of materials. No interaction and engagement. Unorganized and boring. That's true. Organized and And then I guess, yeah, when they don't know what they're talking about, how would I call that? Not knowledgeable, I guess.
I mean, this rarely happens, but once in a while you have someone who's forced to teach a class that they don't want to teach and they don't have time to prepare. And
Right.
it's not that they don't know, but in that particular context, they don't know. So
Say maybe, could it be also not knowledgeable and lack of care?
I mean, it's hard because, sometimes I also don't prepare as much as I want to.
Right.
Because we're all overwhelmed with a lot of different things, but it rarely happens. Somebody's being forced to teach something they absolutely don't want to. So,
Right. Yeah, I'll put not knowledgeable. Of course, that's a problem, and lack of care about the student or the courses. Excessive technology use. I like that one. Who wrote that? Can you give an example of what excessive technology use? Can you give an example of what that is? So I think that's Payal. Okay, that's okay. Well, I think I know what that means. Reading notes, not answering questions, patience or enthusiasm. That's a good one. I like that. Lack of patience. Some professors are expert of free software not being involved. So excessive, so I'd say what I see here is excessive use of technology, and then unaware or not using good technology. Okay. So I think we have some good things here. So teaching straight from lecture notes, no interaction, engagement, boring, unorganized. Then we have here the rare case, hopefully, of not knowledgeable, because normally we should be teaching classes where we have some knowledge. Lack of patience, excessive technology use. So maybe using technology where it's not needed, or they think they have to use it, but they really don't. And other times we're just not using available technology or using it appropriately. Okay. So thanks everyone for being patient and going through this. But what I think we've seen is that we have already together, crowdsourced, have come up with things that we should be aware about that we all think from our experience has been kind of hallmarks of good teaching. So in terms of what we want to do, it's clear communication, organization, and transparency. Students really appreciate that. They also appreciate you being responsive. If they send an email or they come to office hours, respond to them. Be available during their office hours. Respond reasonably to emails. and other kinds of communications. It doesn't mean we have to drop everything and respond to it, but I would say respond to things within a business day. And then getting out of the kind of boring lecture mode, getting some group activities, breaking up lectures. Students today don't have a long attention span. And I know I sound like an old, grumpy old man when I say, oh, the kids today don't do that. But in my 20 years of teaching kind of the same courses of that, I have clearly seen that over the past 10 years, students have a lower attention span. They can't focus. What's the cause of that? I don't know. An academic will really need to kind of dig into that and do their PhD on it. But it's clear to me that straight lecture, and especially books, the expectation of students to read books is going down. Students don't want to read books. They're not used to it. I mean, it's ridiculous. And of course, we should all read books. But I'm seeing that they don't respond well. They respond better to kind of video backgrounds and chatbots and things like that. And yeah, I see the comment here from Pranoy about, yeah, COVID and AI. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So this is kind of, as a group, what we see as good teaching. And here, as a group, we see as kind of not good teaching. And not surprisingly, they're related to each other. So we see a lot of converses, what is good, the converse is what's bad. And teaching straight from lecture notes, not being engaging, being boring, lack of care, lack of patience, and misusing technology. TikTok. Yes. Okay, so although let me go back to my slideshow mode. Okay. So although we generally know it when we see it, sometimes we have, or I do anyway, have trouble precisely articulating what is good teaching. And faculty and administration don't always agree about that. And finally, students are evolving. And global shifts in their needs and strengths and weaknesses can't be ignored. I think you have to consider that and monitor it and adjust. Now, it doesn't mean you can't challenge them. It doesn't mean you can't push them and expect them to do reading and so on. But recognize that they'll struggle with it and may have some pushback to it. So with all that, based on what we've talked about already, here are my overarching tenets on what is good teaching based on my experience. These are mine. But you'll see that they're also yours because they line up with what you have already said. What I found is that clear organization, having a structure, this is what we're going to cover, and cover it, and show the students with your organization that you care. That is huge. Students love that. And it makes your teaching better. Transparency and consistency, so important. The students have to know going in, okay, this is how I'm going to be graded. These are the expectations. If an assignment is late, I will get penalized. And, or, if you want to get this, if you want to get a good grade, you need to focus on these things because the course weighting is clear. And these are my policies. You have to be super transparent and then be consistent. So you can't not apply policy at one point and then apply it later, and you'll get a huge backlash. Be transparent and be consistent right at the outset. Responsiveness. You've mentioned that previously. If you have office hours, show up to them. Be consistent there. Respond to students' requests. I often say, you know, student email, student questions, they're often very easy to answer. You can often answer them in like one sentence or a few words, or say, read this portion of the book, or say, come see me during office hours. It's very easy to respond to them usually, and a fast response, a prompt response, reasonably fast. It doesn't mean you drop everything to do it. That goes a huge way in terms of the student perception of the class and their kind of inspiration to kind of do, you know, kind of be inspired to work for this class and like it. And finally, care and respect. Here I'm talking about care for the students, respect for the students, and respect for the class. And if you don't have that, you need to fake it because that is so important. And by care and respect, I don't mean, oh, feel sorry for them, be easy on them, don't challenge them, and so on. I don't mean that. I mean listening to them, being clear and transparent, understanding who they are as best you can, and showing it. And part of that is by showing your own vulnerabilities. And I know that's very hard to do, but that goes a long way. You know, knowing the students' names, you know, understanding maybe where they're from, understanding what their issues are, and then respecting them and understanding they're trying their best in most cases, and I respect that. There is one kind of effort that I'll point to, and that's called the Teaching with Heart Project. This was something that started at the Colorado School of Mines under Roel Sneeder, who is a faculty member now, and I think he just recently retired. He's always been kind of an inspiration to me because of his research work. He's a geophysicist, but a lot of his work kind of bleeds over to what I do in non-destructive testing, structural health monitoring, and imaging for infrastructure. I mean, he's just a giant in that field. And I've always admired how he's presented his work and so on. But later in his career, he kind of transitioned. He kind of felt, I think, I've been there, done that. I've been at the top of the research game. I want to improve how I teach and how I mentor graduate students. And he's thrown himself at that. And he has this project called Teaching with Heart. And I just point to that, and it shows kind of strategies and things about how teaching with empathy, teaching with care, teaching with heart is so important for engaging with students and improving your teaching. And so I just point you to that site, and you can look at it. His approach is not for everybody. It's you know, it's very kind of almost I don't know how to say it, but spiritual and deep. And it does not for everybody, but I encourage you to just at least look at it and see what he's trying to say. And by the way, he authored a book, which I think is one of the best books on mentoring graduate students that I've ever seen. It's terrific. And it's called The Art of Being a Scientist. I think it's wonderful. I mean, it helps you understand how to better mentor graduate students. So again, the name is Roel Sneeder, and I'll just write here in case you want to take a look at that. So just for something to think about. Okay, so we went on that. So now let's look at consider what we've talked about, what we have put together, come up with what's good teaching. And I want to share with you something that is kind of a collection of best practices, which is put together by my university by the college-sponsored AE3 program. And AE3 is a program that the College of Engineering at Illinois has put together to kind of help mentor better teaching and guide better teaching. And they have these kind of peer observation activities They offer workshops and so on. And I just wanted to kind of share with you their peer observation guidelines. So when, as part of it, there are teaching observations of faculty. And this is how AE3 says we need to kind of evaluate the teaching to see if it's good or not. So I just want to share one example of what one organization thinks of is in terms of best practices. So you'll see that these are not surprises. These are things that we've already talked about, and this is something that we all can agree that makes good teaching. And that now, considering that, we can go back and think and work on our own teaching. So for example, the broad categories are organization, and part of that organization is, not organizing your class, but organizing your lecture. And they like to see, at the beginning, giving an introduction and learning objectives like, hey, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to walk you through this. That's preview and review includes that. And then clear transitions, being organized in your content. In terms of presentation, it's enthusiasm, it's eye contact, it's showing care. And then there is the section too. I was like, how are you using technology? Now, sometimes technology like, having web surveys, breaking up lecture, doing group work, think, pair, share, doing flipped classroom kind of things are great. But the key is that I think what's important is to break up reading off the slides lecture. And that's especially important for today's student. And then here, I think I meant to have break here. So your enthusiasm, your volume, your projection, your clarity, your eye contact, that's showing that you care. And then, how clear are you with your slides? Are they overwhelming? Is there too much content? And so on. Are you overusing technology? Are you underusing technology? And then there's interaction, of course, that's again, breaking up lecture with activities or answering student questions, question asking strategies, prompting the class, and so on. All of these basically are designed to kind of engage the student, get them out of just the lecture, kind of following lecture mode, which they lose interest and lose kind of learning after about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, research shows. One thing about answering student questions, the answer, I think what best practice says is that if a student has a question, answer it directly. Don't make it mysterious. Don't make them struggle and, well, what do you think? And why do you think that? And so on. Just say, here's the answer. And now let's discuss that kind of thing. And then sometimes students ask questions where you don't know the answer. That happens to me every year. They ask these great questions that I didn't think about. I'm like, wow, that's a great question. And instead of trying to fake it or downplay it, oh, well, it's not. And I always say, well, that's a great question. I don't know the answer. I'm showing my vulnerability, but I will look into it and we'll address it next lecture, these kinds of things. And then in terms of content, it's clarity, showing relevance, as someone pointed that out, like tying it to the real world, using examples, breaking up conventional lecture, and then connecting to previous material is often very important. Oh, 3 lectures ago, we talked about this. This is why that was important, and this is how we're going to build on that. So this is just kind of examples of best practices that one organization, my college, thinks is important. And you see that shouldn't be a surprise to you because it's exactly what we all developed in terms of our groupthink. So now I want to, when we're talking about technology, I just want to bring up a topic, something to think about. And that's machine learning, artificial intelligence, and especially generative AI and large language model. So I think one of you mentioned that you have a class where you teach machine learning and civil engineering. That's great. We need more of that. Civil engineers need to not be afraid of programming, computing, machine learning, and so on, and think, oh, I'm going to hand it off to the computer science people. No, we are the people, because we have the domain knowledge, that need to be on top of that. That's super important. So I'm really glad to see that being incorporated. We're trying to do that here in Illinois as well. But right now, we are in the midst of a revolution, and that is that generative AI is coming to the classroom. And in fact, it's already here. It exists. Our students are using it, no doubt. You're probably using it. And engineering practitioners are using it, right? It's here. We have to get in front of it. And, I just wanted to kind of prompt your thinking about this, because it's here. We have to kind of, in a way, understand and control how the students are using it. That's not so easy. I see here in the chat that, students can use AI for improving language, certainly for creating coding, and so on. How to best control that, how to best guide them, Some people restrict it. You cannot, I see syllabi where you cannot use any generative AI and we will catch you and all of this. And that's just not going to work. Honestly, they are going to use it. And, and understand what it's good at right now. And of course, it's evolving and it'll be good at everything soon. And what it's not good at. And then how we can use it not only to prepare students for their career where they will be using those tools for design even. There will be a future where AI will be used for design. And we have to be on top of that. It's ethical use. It's effective use. What are the tools? And then how can we as teachers improve that? Our teaching, do we develop chatbots, local generative AI based on our course material? Can we use AI to help grading, help the efforts associated with what we do, lecture preparation, and so on? And the answer is yeah, it's there, but we have to start thinking about it. And the question here is, how do we best incorporate it? And I don't have the answers, and we're right at the leading edge. And, I think, I'd like to hear your thoughts about that. Where is AI now, and how can we best use of it? And here I'm not trying to say, this is what to do. It's more of like, I want you to start thinking about it because it is here. It's coming, and we should be in front of that problem. Right. And I see in the discussion here that AI can, it helps improving, creating drafts of things, or improving wording, and definitely for coding, it's great. And it can be inspiring. It can, you can be creative, improve your creativity with it. But there's ethical use. And if we rely on it too much, or the students rely on it too much, are they learning the basics? All of this is this philosophical talk, we're at the front end of that. I have no idea where it's going to go, but it's here and we have to start thinking about it. So it's just something to think about. And then, I'm at the end of my slides here, but, in summary, a few observations that, teaching is important for all of our careers. That's why we're here. But unfortunately, most of us are not formally prepared for it. We're not trained. We don't know how to do it. And we have to kind of figure it out on ourselves. And to do that, we have to kind of self-reflect, figure out yourself, figure out strategies that work for your particular class, a massive class, a small class, a graduate level class, and so on. And also consider best practices that you can look up, and I've shared some, and the student needs. But in terms of the care and compassion, I think that's an element that many people overlook. Do not think you shouldn't show care and compassion, or that you can't show vulnerability and that you care about them. That is really important for learning. It's hard to pull off. It doesn't mean, again, that you are very easy on them. You're going to let them do whatever they want. No, not at all. It's that you recognize them, you see where they are, you're listening to them, you understand them, you care about them. That's really important, however you can show to do that. And then finally, generative AI is here, and we need to get in front of that. So that's the end of my talk. So I'm just like, with that, I want you to now, based on all of that, I want you to think about, like, what do you want to work on with your teaching based on that? Has this inspired you in any way, or do you have another observation you'd like to share about that? You know, and I know here we're all related in the group, related to civil engineering, in particular civil engineering materials and structures, concrete, and so on. So I didn't have any specific suggestions about teaching concrete materials, concrete structures, and so on, or mechanics, but I kind of welcome that too. So I kind of opened the floor to kind of invite people to say, like, based on this, what do you think you're going to work on? What have I missed? What do you think is important to talk about? And do you have any specific suggestions for concrete construction? So thank you.
Thank you very much, John. This was fantastic. And I'm sure we'll have some discussion, but I wanted to start with a little bit of a pitch, actually. So we have discussed in this group how difficult it is to develop material for a new course. It's always incredibly challenging. So what we said was that anyone who was willing to share their course materials, it will be uploaded and it's open for you to share as long as you acknowledge. That offer still stands. So anyone here, if you need course material, reach out to Nishant and I will try to get it for you. And anyone here, if you want to share or if you're able to share course material, let us know. You know, we will give you the folder, share it. Obviously, it won't be used without your consent, but I think for a lot of newer faculty, having some course material to start off with makes life incredibly easy. So thank you for your interest and participation in that.
Okay. I see one comment here. Any suggestions for redesigning class activities and work projects to help manage or guide their use of GPT? Yeah, that's the $1 million question right now. And, you know, there are different strategies. I've seen people forbid its use because by using generative AI tools like that, you're not doing it yourself and therefore not learning. For instance, with coding or with writing. And, you know, there's probably some truth to that. If you let the machine do it all the time, you're not doing it, you may not be learning. But I think that's not realistic to forbid it because the students will use it anyway. And so, like, another strategy is to embrace it and use it in your assignments and say, okay, as part of this writing assignment, I want you, or this problem, I want you to use generative AI, and you can even say which module you want. So I want you to solve this problem using that. And then I want you to tear apart that solution and show me why it's not work, why it didn't work, where's the hallucination, what's incorrect, and show me step by step what the changes are. Same with writing, you know, lab report, you know, you can use ChatGPT to write a lab report, but, you know, it doesn't get anything right. Things aren't working. Then, okay, tear it apart. You self-evaluate your work with ChatGPT. Show me where it worked, where it didn't work. How do you improve it to make it right? So there's the forbid it. There's the embrace it and use it in a way that where the students have to kind of show their domain knowledge to correct it. You know, and that's work for you, the grader and the TAs. And then the other mode is ignore it. And I think a lot of us are in the ignoring mode. We know it's out there. We're not really enforcing or using it, forbidding the students to do it or checking it or embracing it. So I think, for me, embracing it and using it is the way to go. But how to do that effectively and making sure that the learning is happening and the students recognize that. So,
I think there's one more, if I can say.
sure.
Sorry, the roof is being repaired in the house I'm at. So if you hear that, I'm sorry, but just acknowledging it and restructuring your class if you need to, in terms of more evaluation in person. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much they use it, they may say they didn't use it, and that so I don't have to do this evaluation technique, right? Where I'm like, here's how I used it, here's how it was bad. I can just say I didn't use it. And as it gets better, we won't know. So I think the opportunities for like the hallucinations are going to become less and less, and the ways like to catch your students for cheating are going to be less and less.
Yeah.
So I compare it to Chegg, where I didn't know until my second semester of teaching that Chegg existed until a TA told me.
Mhm.
And then 5 years later was the first time that one of my colleagues found out that Chegg existed.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, they're going to use all of these things, and just
Yep.
acknowledging, I understand it's here, you're going to use it, and it's not going to help you learn the material. And so then formatting your class slightly differently so that you make sure they're like absorbing more in person.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good analogy. The generative AI of today is the Chegg and other repositories and, for fraternity files of old assignments, that's kind of similar kind of problem. And so it's out there, it's out there, and you have to kind of restructure. For the generative AI, how do you restructure to do against that? One is to have assessments where they can't rely on AI. So that's exams, right? Closed, controlled. So, hey, show your knowledge here. And, you can emphasize that if you want to do well in this course, you have to do well in the exam. And to do well in the exam, you have to know the fundamentals. That means you have to do things. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. So if you use ChatGPT and you don't think about it or, dig into it and understand it, do it yourself, you're going to struggle on this exam. And the other is to kind of, like I said before, I think actually use it and say, yeah, I know you're going to use it, solve a problem with this. Now totally deconstruct it, redo the problem, and show me as part of the assignment what you did, what's wrong, or what's right. Now, and so I don't know, Stephanie, if that captures what you're saying, but.
Yeah, those are the exact two things I do, plus like more in-class assignments. So, but I think that all of those are very viable ways to move forward, and we'll just see which one is best, or if they're all the best in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yep. But as the technology is improving, the ability to detect it is going down.
So if I can add something here, John. So this was basically my experience. So like you rightly pointed out, Gen AI is here to stay. So I had actually given one of my labs. So I teach the measurements lab. So one of the reports, I asked them to write purely using ChatGPT. So I had a class of 55 folks. So the instructions were pretty clear. Lab 3, which is basically that lab, has to be done with ChatGPT or any AI tool that you choose, any generative AI tool that you choose. You're expected to prompt the AI tool until it gives you a reasonable response, at which point you can be sure to edit it. And then I asked them to include all the prompts that they used in the appendix.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
a good idea.
The issue was that out of 55, maybe 4 people were smart, if you will, in that they fed their previous lab reports and asked ChatGPT to write it in the same style, modified, etc. About 80% of the class was super lazy in that they just ran it through ChatGPT, submitted a version that was seriously horrible, And
Yep.
then I got reported to the university or to my department chair because I graded them badly for a report that AI wrote. So I'm not really sure how you would approach this in spite of giving clear instructions. This is where things have been going. So I was wondering if you had any insights on this.
But in that case that you mentioned, as part of your assignment, was part of the assignment to criticize and critique and show the changes.
Yeah.
So then I don't know how you could be criticized, because if they say, oh, there were no changes needed, and there were certainly changes needed based on what you taught, then they should be graded poorly. Right?
Yep.
It's the clarity and the assignment is there. So maybe I misunderstand what you wrote, but to me, you can defend yourself against that.
Yeah.
Now, if you just said, hey, use ChatGPT and make the report and submit it, and then I grade it very poorly, then yeah, of course, that's not reasonable, right? But if you say, no, what you didn't do, the key step was that you had to deconstruct it and tell me.
Yeah.
And that's where the grade weight is, and that's what you will be criticized on and graded on. Then I think it's completely defensible. But maybe I'm not catching exactly.
No. So I had a couple. So this is the shorter version of this. I also had a longer version of the prompt, in that I told them to, yes, criticize ChatGPT where it goes wrong. Why do you think it goes wrong there? If you can come up with a reason.
Yep.
And then if you want to, so my class requires them to generate any plots they do in Python or MATLAB. So there is no going around it. So they need to do it in Python or MATLAB.
Yep.
And I said, if you wanted to generate scripts for those using ChatGPT, go ahead and do it. I don't really care. So I gave them sort of clear instructions. So I gave them a 2-page series of instructions for how to use AI and where to use AI and what needs to be done for the lab report. And then because 80% of the students just ran it through once and submitted it,
Yeah.
I got reported. So I'm not really sure as to how to approach that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like if your assignment was very clear, and then you said to get good grades, you need to do this as part of the assignment. This is what will constitute an A. Then I think it's defensible, and you can let them report it. But it's uncomfortable. There's been a lot of reporting here where faculty have either forbid to use generative AI. They discover that, oh, this is clearly AI generated, so give them a 0, give them a bad grade, something. And then students said, no, I did it myself. You can't prove it. I think this is an area, because it's so emerging, that you're going to have a lot of strong feelings and you may get reported. I mean, at the end of the day, reported, whoever they reported to, did they back you?
Yeah, so they asked me to defend myself.
Yeah.
So I gave them the 2-page prompts and 2-page assignment or the lab report prompts that I posted. I also post an FAQ section with the lab report requirements, the submission requirements. So I sent them the FAQ. I sent them all the instructions that I had given, which was 2 pages long. And then I showed them all the posts and the discussion sections that we had for this in class.
Yep.
And all the student emails and queries with student names blacked out, of course, which I sent it. And my department chair said, I don't really know how to approach this now.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the Wild West right now for AI, but to me, it'd be like any other sort of plagiarism, You have to defend, if you make that accusation or if people are complaining about it, you have to be able to defend it. And so it seems to me like you are defending it, right? And then at the end of the day, who won? I mean, was there some adjudication or something, or did they say, oh, stop using these kind of assignments, or what happened?
No, my department chair basically said, you don't have to worry about it anymore. I'll handle it. So,
okay. Well, I think what you're doing is fine. I think it's a great thing. And, look, students are going to complain when they get a bad grade. And especially these days, again, I don't want to sound like a grumpy old guy that, oh, students are different today. Students today are more willing to assign blame for their poor performance on an assignment on you or on the system rather than on themselves. Take responsibility. That's, I've seen it. So that we have to live with that too. And the way to defend that is transparency, being very clear. Hey, here's an assignment. If you want to get an A, that's how we will evaluate you. This is how you will get a bad grade on that. If you just did this kind of thing. So when you have that upfront transparency, and which is not easy to do in these kind of new assignments, I admit, that's your defense.
No, thank you.
But I would continue to keep doing what you're doing. I think it sounds great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So I have one more this semester that way. So let's see.
Yep,
Thank you.
sure.
All right, folks. So thank you very much, John, for doing this.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. Nice to
I
meet
think
you.
this has been a very interesting discussion, an interactive class. It also showed, I think, some of the issues when having meetings or teaching discussions over Zoom. Very much appreciated, and thank you to the participants as well. I'm going to put this up on YouTube unless you have any objection with it. I'll share you the details, of course.
And if you want my presentation file to share, I can share that with you if you want.
Yes, please. That would be fantastic.
Okay, super.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Thank
Have
you,
a
Zian.
Thank
great
you.
summer.
Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
summer.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.